Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. While we are waiting for some people to join, I do want to welcome all of you to the side event, which is part of the 15th session of the UN Conference of State Parties to the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And the title of this side event is Economic Empowerment for Persons with Disabilities and Persons Affected by Leprosy. Challenges and Successes from Projects Across Asia and Africa. It has been organized by the Leprosy Mission and by Disabled Peoples International. I do want to apologize at the outset because sadly we were not able to book sign language interpreters with us today. We do have live captions available at the bottom of your screen. Please press the button that says CC, and that way we hope that everyone will be able to follow our conversations over the next hour or so. By way of introductions, my name is Matthias Duck, and I'm the Global Advocacy Manager of the Leprosy Mission International, and I also chair the advisory panel of persons affected by leprosy at ILAP, which is the International Federation of Anti-Leprosy Associations. And for your information, this side event is being recorded and will be available at a later time, and we will provide details as to where and how you can access it. Leprosy, or Hansen's disease, is still very real, and every 2 minutes, a person in the world is diagnosed with leprosy. We would have to say that that was the reality before the pandemic. Sadly, with the pandemic, that has changed because less effort is dedicated to looking for and diagnosing persons affected. But it is estimated that about 4 million people live with a leprosy-related disability in the world. Unfortunately, this is not even confirmed because the data is not really being collected. And leprosy has often been seen as a purely medical condition. Persons who have experienced leprosy and with a leprosy-related disability have not always been part of the disability community. For this reason, we are very pleased to be working with Disabled Peoples International to ensure that persons who have experienced leprosy are included in the wider disability movement. The objective of this side event will be to consider economic empowerment projects within the disability and leprosy sector. We aim to understand what challenges these projects and the people within them are facing and how they are overcoming those challenges. We also aim to understand the successes and what has led to the success and how this could be replicated in other places. We hope to equip attendees with the knowledge and insight that will guide their own work within the leprosy and disability sectors. We also want to discuss how the UN CRPD framework can support persons who have experienced leprosy in addressing and overcoming their challenges. So today, we will hear directly from persons affected by leprosy, from leading experts, practitioners, and government officials on the economic empowerment within the disability and leprosy sector. The socioeconomic impact of the pandemic on marginalized, disadvantaged, and fragile communities has been disproportionate. Persons affected by leprosy have not been exempt from that. Loss of livelihoods and incomes have led to unemployment. Meanwhile, leprosy-related disability will grow significantly due to the pandemic. We need to hear from those who are making a difference. The lessons they have learned need to be adapted and applied in different contexts if we aim to really create the space for economic empowerment within the disability and leprosy communities. We have a panel of 5 speakers, and I'm going to invite each of those panelists to speak. And after all the panelists have spoken, we will open up for a time of questions. If you would like to ask a question of the panelists, please post these in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to have your questions answered. I would now like to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker is Ms. Mangala Dhongbe. She's a Livelihoods Program Manager at the Leprosy Mission Trust India. She's also a person affected by leprosy and therefore speaks both from a profoundly personal but also professional experience. Please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Ms. Mangala Dhongbe, and we're pleased to hear you now. The floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, all of you. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity I got in this webinar to share about the economic development of people affected by leprosy and with other disabilities. My name is Mangala Dhongbe, and I'm working with the Leprosy Mission Trust India. I'm heading one project which is disability focused. I'm directly working with 4,000 people with disability, people affected by leprosy and other marginalized communities. Before this project, I was working in a project which is named Jagruti project. And in that project, the Jagruti project, I would like to discuss, or I would like to share about the learning about the Jagruti project in front all of you. The Jagruti project was focused for 400 people affected by leprosy and with other disabilities. And the project was purely focused on sustainable livelihood. The project was implemented by the Leprosy Mission Trust India and the CBO. I am sure that I'm better audible now. So sorry for I switched off my camera. So this project was implemented from 2019 to 2021. And we focus in that sustainable livelihood of 400 people with disability. In this project, we got many learnings, like first time we did the livelihood assessment. Then we had developed a livelihood demonstration center. We had given the thematical skill training, which is for 90 days, and with the exposure visit. And first time we did the financial linkages with the collective. So these are the learning we got in that project. This project was, as I said, this project was directly focused on sustainable livelihood. So we provided seed money in Indian rupees 16,000 for each individual. But that amount was not sufficient to start any livelihood. So we had to link these individuals, these all 400 people with disability and people affected by leprosy, with the various government schemes for loan to start their livelihood. So in this project, we developed a unique process, and we term as ladder of livelihood, which is not only support individuals to establish their enterprises, and earn a steady income, but also to promote the participation and inclusion. So let me allow to explain what is the ladder of livelihood. The ladder of livelihood was first we did it is a step-by-step process which we completed in the Jagruti project. So first we identified the potential beneficiaries, where potential individuals. So we had identified in a specific area people affected by leprosy and with other disability. The age group was 16 years to 45 years. Then and this identification we did through baseline survey. After that, we did individual development plan for each individual. The plan of doing individual assessment was we have to administer each individual's potential, like their ability, their interest, and their previous experiences of the individual. And most important was the current need of each individual. So we did the individual assessment of each individual. After this individual assessment, the next step was livelihood assessment. Each and every individual, our target was to provide possible livelihood within their villages. So, and what is through this livelihood assessment, we comparing the market needs and possible livelihood for the individual is undertaken. So we given them opportunity to select any 3 best livelihood they can do. So these 3 best livelihood means as per their ability, capability, as per their interest, and they need family support to do, and what is the market demand, and this livelihood they have to select. So the final decision of choosing their livelihood option from the shortlisted option is left to the beneficiary, because if they select any livelihood, if they have interest, they have previous experience, so there is no chances of failure of this livelihood. After this livelihood assessment, we go for the thematical skill development training. The thematical skill development training was, we have to provided them 90 days thematical skill training, and this training was both component. They have both component like theory and the practical. The training model was highly interactive and comprised of 80% of practical only. And the theory module we developed, it is developed according to their literacy level, because the people affected by leprosy and people with disability in village area, because this project was implemented in forest area, like very rural area. So the module we designed that they should understand. So we had designed the module as per their literacy level. The training was usually held closer to beneficiaries' residents. And the training part, because we focus on 80% practical training. So through this project, we have developed a livelihood demonstration center. And in that livelihood demonstration center, the training was the beneficiary, or that each individual, they got the practical knowledge of this specific livelihood which they had selected. Let me explain what is the livelihood demonstration center. That livelihood demonstration center, in the project, we had selected some potential beneficiaries who can contribute themselves for the community. So we had developed 6 to 7 livelihood demonstration center in 4 blocks, and that beneficiary was contributed in the livelihood demonstration center, and the livelihood demonstration center was belong to individual with disability. They are the owner of this livelihood demonstration center, and they were the role model for others, because other people with disabilities and people affected by leprosy, they are going to this demonstration center, and they are learning, they are getting the knowledge, and they are experiencing the people like us, who have some physical challenges, they can be a good entrepreneur. So these are the focus. These are the targets for Livelihood Demonstration Center. And the owner of the Livelihood Demonstration Center feel proud to able to showcase his business and support others. So these are the Livelihood Demonstration Center we have developed first time in the Jagruti project. And after the thematical skill training, completion of thematical skill training, we support each individual to develop their business plan by their own. In the business plan, we consider all forward and backward linkages along with the time plan for achieving tasks as per the plan. And in the business plan, we did the study of market demand, village needs, what are the capability of this person affected by leprosy or person with disability. So like that, the study was done in the business plan and which was developed by the each and every individual in that project. And after the development of business plan, we took them for the exposure visit. The exposure visit was taken outside the districts, outside the states, and we had taken them in the Krishi Vigyan Kendra. Means like if a person wanted to do goat farming, so we had taken them in the Krishi Vigyan Kendra or a goat farmer, a large scale goat farmer, where how they can managing, how they can doing the goat farming business in a large scale. So through this exposure visit, that each and every individual get motivated that how they can go for the large scale business too. And another side, we had taken each individual to the exposure visit in the Livelihood Demonstration Center too. So they get motivated. Key people like us can do a better. So this was the motive of exposure visit. And after this exposure visit, we had to link them with the financial linkages like Panchayat Raj institution, rural banks, and state rural livelihood mission. Because the area where Jagruti project was implemented, here the literacy rate is very low. So if we say them ki, we will link you with the bank, so people have fear about the bank, that how we can go to the bank, how we can access the loan, and they have fear about like a police station. Like police station, people, general community have fear about go to police station. That like that only the community with whom we are working here, they have fear about the banking. So in that place, we use twin track approach. In that, the concept of twin track approach is we went to duty bearers and we sensitize them. And we sensitize them that there are the beneficiaries and they want to do the business of, there are 400 people with disability and people affected by leprosy, and they are going to do their business in such way. So they have a need of the loan. So the Panchayat Raj institution, rural bank, and state rural livelihood missions, we involve them in livelihood loans and to give the grants to people with disability. So like that, we had we tried to link them with the financial linkages to get the, because we provided 16,000 seed money, and that was not enough. So through the linkages, we help them to get loan from the other financial systems. And when once all backward linkages have been established, like finances, we gave the seed money, they got the grant and loan, and beneficiary also contributed, and then it is secured that they started their enterprises, they started their livelihood. And in after that, we give them we took their follow. Whenever they need, we get them support to extend their livelihood. And like that, it was the process. It is the ladder of livelihood, which I would like to discuss. And through this project, at the end of this project, that we 400 people affected by leprosy and other disability now earning in Indian rupees 10,000 to 15,000 per month and living their dignified life. We got one more lesson through that money play an important role, because money because they started earning, so now they get the inclusion in the family and the community. So these are the success of the Jagruti project. And yes, I would like to share the challenges. When the project was started, because I told earlier that project was focused. We had focused age group from 16 years to 45 years. But the villages we were in that villages, there were poor family, and they were having the children with disability. And because we focus the target age group, age group, so we did not skip them. So we took we worked with the parents of children with psychosocial disability and visual impairment, and we make them understood, the parents, that because of their children we enroll them in the project. That was the one learning. And of course there is change. We can see that the parents doing better care of their children. And one more challenges was there, that people from rural area where the literacy rate was very low, people don't want to go to bank to access the loan. In that situation, we link them with the SRLM departments, State Rural Livelihood Mission, and through the State Rural Livelihood Mission, we provided the loan to the collective. We formed their collectives and they access the loan through the collective. So these are the challenges, and we overcome it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Mangala, for this very excellent presentation, for giving us a very real and very practical view of how these the economic empowerment can happen in a very real environment. And I would like to remind everybody that there is a Q&A box where you can post your questions, and our speakers will already try to answer them while we're going on, so that we can make sure that we have time to answer the questions. And I would like to go to our next speaker, who is Dr. Sangeeta Kaushal Mishra. Dr. Sangeeta is the Chief of the Health Coordinating Division of the Ministry of Health and Population of the Government of Nepal. And we're very happy to have you here with us, Dr. Sangeeta, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matthias, and a very good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to all of you from all the parts of the world from where you are joining. And I'll be speaking from Nepal experiences, basically from the policies which we have. So when we talk about the census, which was actually, we have done now our own recent census, but the data from the last census, that was 2011, it shows that we have around 0.5 million people who are living with disabilities. And when you look at it, the percentage, it is around 1.94. We already know that Nepal actually declared elimination in 2010, as many of the countries did. And but suddenly the cases started re-emerging, and right now the prevalence rate is somewhere around 0.87%. And if you look at the picture, how many people actually are living with leprosy, with the disease right now, it's around 0.2 million. So around 0.2 0.2 million, a little bit over than 0.2 million people are living with the leprosy. And among them, around 31,000 or 14.4% are diagnosed with disability, which is kind of like, it's a big number for us. So when we talk about the economic status of all these persons who are actually living with the disability, we know that it actually depends on the various factors. So what are those factors? There are kind of, the main and important factor is stigma and the discrimination. There have been various studies throughout the Nepal, and basically the caseload is very high in the plains. And there is one study which showed that there was a negative effect on the income generation, and the main reason was the stigma, because they were thrown out of the job because of the stigma. So they lost employment or they lost income, and there was very little societal support. I must say that there are some kind of family support, but when you talk about the community stigma is much more than we think of. So when we say that how this community-based rehabilitations are working in Nepal, I must say that there have been some efforts, and because that is very crucial for their livelihood, but health-related rehabilitation interventions, including reconstructive surgeries and provision of assistive products, are delivered to the persons, but there are only in very limited places. There are certain organizations who are actually working for these rehabilitation. And I must say that this kind of reconstructive surgeries and provision of assistive products, they are directly linked to their economic activity. Because if you have lost one limb or something, and you have some kind of offered some kind of reconstructive surgeries, your prospects of economic gain in the society, that increases. So that has been one of the focus of the government. And in Government of Nepal, we have a disability prevention and rehabilitation focal unit inside the Ministry of Health and Population, who is actually looking after all these rehabilitation work. The other thing is that Ministry of Women, Children and Senior Citizens. So we have different kind of line ministries who are working together in this approach. So the other ministry is Ministry of Women and Children, as I already said, and the other one is Ministry of Commerce. So they are all working together, and there have been some efforts for the economic rehabilitation of all these people who have some kind of disability. I must say that there have been some work to promote disability inclusive development, which also includes livelihood opportunity for the people. And these interventions are in the form of community-based rehabilitation. And right now, the Nepal has already devolved in federal structure. So right now we have provincial, local, and federal government. So now the responsibility of rehabilitation has gone down to the local government, so that they could reach up to the larger cohort of the people who have some kind of disabilities at the community. And Ministry of Industry and Commerce, as I already said, and Supplies, they are promoting they are formulating certain policies, and they are actually monitoring the industrial sectors as well. The national industrial policy, they also have some provision of incentives in this sector, and they are offered some kind of job. When I talk about the legislation, I must say that the legislation was first passed in 1982, and it has been a very progressive legislation. I must say that when you are going to the school, there are no fees for the school, and there are 5% jobs reserved in the government, as well as in the business. And in the private sector, you have a free medical care, free treatment, and then you have some kind of loans or that has been allocated for these for the people who are living with the disabilities. So Government of Nepal is providing continued support annually for economic empowerment of the persons affected by leprosy and its consequences. And every year, a certain amount of seed money is provided to the self-help groups of the people who are affected by disability, and the amount varies from 10,000 to 50,000 of the rupees. And actually, these self-help groups, they themselves then decide that what kind of economic activity or what kind of business or what kind of entrepreneurship they want to do. So right now we have these kind of groups, and their access to income generation, activity, help and support, and social participation actually has been planned through these self-help groups. So when we talk about the success which Nepal had in these recent years, I must say that the first success is the formulation of self-help groups and National Association of persons affected by leprosy. So right now, all over the country, there are around 150 functional self-help groups in various districts of Nepal. And members of the self-help groups are not limited to the people affected by the leprosy, but they also include the people from any form of disabilities, and the people that might include people who are affected by filariasis and leishmaniasis and other disabilities as well. So that is a kind of very inclusive self-help groups, which is not only limited to leprosy. The economic empowerment through income generation of the people who have been affected by leprosy has been a priority activity for government of Nepal. And right now, when we talk about the grants which government is supporting in 2021, around 5.6 million has been already allocated for income generation activity in 50 municipalities. And seed money out of this budget, we actually provide seed money, and the seed money, as I already said, it can vary, and up to 50,000 is the provision. So we can give seed money of 50,000 to the self-help groups. Other grant support have also been provided for the people who have been living with the leprosy, and to empower the rehabilitation as in the way to provide food, shelter, and vocational training for income generation. So that kind of activities have already been continuing. As I already mentioned, that we have multiple partner organizations, and there are many partners who are like doing wonderful work. And I must say, they are not only concentrated in the easy geographical location, they are working in a very remote areas, and in collaboration with all these partner organizations, vocational training are being provided according to the need and according to the interest of the people with disability. So they can be anywhere from the small to middle level businesses, and then training courses related to tailoring, fish farming, animal husbandry, vehicle mechanic, driving, mobile repairing, short-term computer courses. So we have kind of variety of course. So it is not only fixed on like initially people were like just doing the economic activity, like if they can open a shop or doing some business, but according to the education level and according to the ability of the person, we are actually telling them all like a variety of the courses. So those who want to do their own enterprise, we can give them loan, and there's that kind of activity is going on. And even as I already said, people who want to do jobs, so we can the government of Nepal, the policy says that 5% jobs are reserved, so they can also be placed in certain jobs. And we have made it very mandatory that even private organization, they have to give reserve their 5% of the seats with the people who are living with disability. And altogether around 48 people affected by leprosy in the position of chauffeurs in various public and non-public organizations are there. Apart than this, medical-based rehabilitation interventions such as I already mentioned, reconstructive surgeries and provision of prostheses and orthotics and assistive products are delivered to the persons, and many organizations are working, and as per the need and the design of the as per the need of the person, they are actually making customizing the assistive devices, and that is such as a very good thing that you are actually trying to when you customize the assistive devices, your quality of life actually improves much. Even when we talk about the wheelchairs and other, they have been customizing everything, and certain organizations are doing this. Regarding the job openings and policies, I already said that they have a right, and health benefit package from insurance board, scholarships, education grants have assisted in the economic empowerment. I must say that government of Nepal has also characterized the disability into 4 groups, and they have distributed the cards. So you have a certain type of card, and once you have that card, you can show that card to have certain kind of benefits. And you have, and many of the people who, according to their disability, even severe disability, they have a monthly incentive, or I must say monthly grant of around 4,000 to in between 2,000 to 4,000 rupees. So government is actually supporting their livelihoods, as well as they are giving incentives. Well, having said that, I must, when I'm saying this, I must include that that we have certain success stories in the form of other disability as well, like in Kathmandu, in the Kathmandu restaurant owner, they had actually hired all these people who were deaf in their restaurants. So right now, also in many of the restaurants, the people are living with the disabilities. They have been hired and they are working as waiters as well, and that is kind of like, it was started way back around, I think in 90s. So it's a kind of like a very big success story of Nepal. When I talk about the challenges, I think the stigma and the discrimination is the important challenge, is the most important challenge. The ongoing self and social stigma is very much prevalent in the society. And I must say that because the health is such a I must say it's a resource constrained ministry, or it's all over the world, that health spending is somehow decreases, and especially during the COVID time, your budget decreases because you have other things to do. So the shrinking of the budgeting or proportion of the budget is sometimes a limiting factor for the government as well. And sustainability of self-help groups and prolonged health and physical issues related to the reactions and complications and ongoing issues like ulcers and some impairments, they are also sometimes the challenges, and government is trying to deal with those. So when we talk about opportunities and the future plan which Nepal has, National Leprosy Strategy and Action Plan, it is in place, and it is from 2021 to 2025. And it has envisioned the formulation and strengthening of functional self-help groups to capacitate persons affected by leprosy at local level. It has also made a provision of funds for supporting self-help advocacy and creating opportunities for income generation through vocational training. And the National 10-year Action Plan on Disability Management and Rehabilitation, which is till 2022, has also envisioned the economic empowerment of the people with disability by improving access and creating employment opportunity. So these are our like opportunities and the future directions. So in conclusion, I must say that there is a good policy commitment from government of Nepal for the care of the people, as well as for economic empowerment of the people who have been affected by leprosy and who are living with the disabilities. Although we have certain barriers, and the most important barrier is the communication. So most of the people, they don't know about their rights. So I think the communication and telling the people who have been affected by disabilities that this is that they have the right to access these facilities and they have the right to have these kind of grants and incentives is one of the most important thing that we need to communicate to the people from all nook and corner of the society. The second issue is with the attitude. As I already said, that attitude and financial constraint are the challenges, and we have to think about that. So in a nutshell, I must say that there have been some good initiatives from the government as well as from the partners, and but there is a need to take all these models in a scalable way. So we need to work more. We need to prioritize budget, and we need to have an effective monitoring mechanism to make these initiatives to be palpable by the people who are actually living with the disabilities. And having said that, there are certain kind of legal provisions, like if you have certain kind of social stigma, you will be penalized. But still, as I said, that communication is the key, and we need to work on our communication strategy. And right now, in a nutshell, if I have to speak, I must say that rather than the provisions, we have to make it as a right-based approach, and then it will be easier for all these people to have economic empowerment. This much from me at this time. Thank you so much for active listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta, for your presentation. And I see that there are more questions in the Q&A box, and I'm asking the panelists also to answer those questions, especially if they're directed at you. I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is Mr. Abayneh Gujo. I'm hoping that I pronounced that right, from DPI Ethiopia, the Federation of Ethiopian National Associations of Persons with Disabilities. And please, Mr. Abayneh, we want to hear from you now. I will ask you to keep it to 5 minutes because of our time constraints. I'm sorry. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Abayneh from Ethiopian National Associations of Persons with Disabilities. And then we are working as an umbrella federation for all OPDs in the country. And I'm really happy getting a chance to introduce what we are doing and what is the current situation in Ethiopia regarding these issues. So by using this opportunity, I'm going to be try to quickly address, due to time constraint, few issues. Majorly, when we talk about the inclusion of persons with disabilities, this is very important that we need to understand that where is the current situation and the past and anything for the future hope. By saying this, in our country, almost when we talk about the inclusion aspects, almost all things still left behind most of people with disabilities. When we talk about the inclusion of education, inclusion of health, inclusion of equal opportunity for employment and any other social aspects, including the political participation of people with disabilities as well, we're very lag behind, and we are trying all our best. We as an Ethiopian have also the national action plan for the last 10 years, and it was already ended in 2021. But still the next phase drafting even was not yet started. But we are still under planning to evaluate the last 10 years national action plan. But it was still yet not conducted, like evaluated what is going on. By saying this, when the good news are here is like from the provision of the materials, assistive devices point of view, and the rehabilitation centers. Now Ethiopia ratified the new proclamation, which clearly mentioned that to ensure the benefit of people with disabilities, the rehabilitation center was established now by officially, and this center is established before 5 months now, and they're under developing now. And the aim of this center is to provide, the first thing, to provide by producing and or importing the assistive device for people with disabilities. And it is going to be led by the Ministry of Health. So this is a hope that we are thinking nowadays the issue of the inclusion will be ensured in the area of this in the near future. But yet now, still, we are facing a lot because we are importing all the assistive device materials, and we are trying to address. But the point is, as we all agree, the assistive device nature, they need the maintenance and everything follow up, and also they are like broken. Then maybe also when children were using the crunch and braces, they are undergoing and they need timely changing the crunch and braces as well, and wheelchairs also. But these facilities will not be available in our country. Besides this, from the health sector, especially for those affected by leprosy, people with disabilities were left behind totally. And also for the intellectual, people with disabilities are the same. So we need to work on this together with all the aspects that what we are going to be do together, and we are also going to look for this. Besides this, the participation of OPDs by itself was not ensured in our country as well. Because we are thinking that if there is any policy drafting age and also any policy under developing, we are thinking we have a principle, nothing about us without us. By this principle, we need to be participate equally with others, so that the participation of people with disabilities is going to be ensured. But now, still, we are lacking this. For instance, Health Ministry, Education Ministry have drafting different proclamations to serve the community. When they do this all, they are not considering well for the participation of OPDs as well. So we are now advocating on this ground. Besides this, also Ethiopia is under developing now Disability Act. We hope this Disability Act will be ratified in 2023 quickly, and now it's under final drafting stage. So this is also going to be help us to work on inclusion of persons with disabilities. Maybe I will come back if there is any questions and something. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abayneh Gujo. And I also thank you on behalf from the Leprosy Mission to DPI for also co-organizing this side event with us, giving us the real issues from the ground in Ethiopia, the challenges and also the opportunities. Our speakers are answering the questions in the chat box, and there is a lively conversation going on. Meanwhile, I would like to introduce Ms. Subodha Galahitiyawa. She's a PhD student at the University of the West of Scotland. She's researching the lives of entrepreneurs with disability. She's also a person with who has experienced leprosy, and she is joining us via pre-recorded video since she had a schedule conflict. So would you please play the video now?
Well, thank you, Matthias, and thank you, Leprosy Mission, and thank you, Disabled People International, for inviting me. Colleagues and partners, can I be cured? Will I be able to live a normal life? Can I be close to my parents, my husband? Will I be able to have kids? Am I ill, or do I have any rights? Will I be able to work? These are some of the questions that came to my mind when I was diagnosed with Hansen's disease that left me with an impairment. I was not born with an impairment. I acquired an impairment later in my life. However, that does not mean I'm disabled. My experiences after I acquired my impairment changed my perspective on life. I was introduced to a world that I never properly thought about before, the world of disability. So my personal experience opened my eyes that the world of people with certain limitation is little interest to most, especially in a country like Sri Lanka. I went to Sri Lanka after my master's degree, hoping to find a good job. Unfortunately, life was not easy as I expected. I struggled to find a job. I sought help from friends and relatives. I remember someone I knew asked me how I was going to do a job with my disability, or I would like to say impairment, because I'm not disabled. As I said, I have an impairment, but that doesn't mean I'm disabled. So the only option I had was to start my own business. And that was also not an easy task. So I wondered if someone with a strong educational background like myself struggled to find a decent job. I was wondering how hard it must be for other persons who have very lower level of education because of disability or impairment to feel included in mainstream society. So my personal experience, stigma and discrimination I experienced due to my impairment motivated me to undertake my study on disability. Therefore, my study to examine the life experiences of entrepreneurs with disabilities in Sri Lanka, and it mainly aimed to foregrounding the voices of disabled people, capture the diversity of their experiences, identify barriers, and focusing on ability rather than disability, and give voices to those who are silenced and underrepresented in our society. And as a person who have experienced Hansen's disease and as a disabled person, I am both inside the culture and participating in that which I'm observing. So I interviewed these social entrepreneurs in order to explain their experiences from the inside of what it is like to be an entrepreneur with a disability in a leprosy disability phobic society. However, when conducting research, I must mention here that we must ensure that the research is making positive contribution towards the persons who have experienced Hansen's disease and people with disabilities. Only the participation itself is not enough. We must implement an approach to ensure that the research is owned and controlled by us, who are people who experience Hansen's disease and people with disabilities, because we are expertise via experience and no one knows better than us. So therefore, we must ensure that there is a greater involvement of people who have experienced Hansen's disease and people with disability at each and every level of the research projects. Therefore, I believe, it's my personal opinion, it is important to strengthen and adhere to the principles of emancipatory disability research rather than participated research. So during my 1 year stay in Sri Lanka in year 2017, and again 3 months field work in 2019, I got the privilege to meet many self-employers and entrepreneurs, business owners, disabled owners in Sri Lanka. And they all were in different stages in their businesses, and their stories were so inspiring. So today I'm going to talk about those entrepreneurs who had a social mission. So they are known as social entrepreneurships, or so we call social entrepreneurs. So it is a relatively new concept in the studies of entrepreneurship and disability studies. So briefly, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. So briefly, social entrepreneurship can be defined as doing a business for a cause, or we would say doing a business towards a social mission. And social entrepreneur is someone who pursue a business idea with the potential to solve a community problem. So each persons have a very unique reason to start their businesses. And few of the people whom I interviewed mentioned to me that their entrepreneurial motivations were driven by employment issues they encountered in society. And further, some even mentioned that they have attended many job interviews but failed as employers were more interested in their disability, or I would like to say impairments, rather than their actual abilities. So employers basically see the impairment first rather than the person itself. And my study also reveals that attitudinal obstacles were the most significant factor that prevents people with disabilities from obtaining employment. So as a result, they are unable to achieve economic self-sufficiency due to employment challenges. So they had no option but to start a business. However, it was also very interesting to find out that there were people whom I interviewed mentioned that these discriminatory behaviors of the society also prompt them to start their business, to prove to the society that they are not incapable and they are valued as everyone else. And others also mentioned that they started their own businesses out of necessities. And here they are called necessity entrepreneurs. So reasons for self-employment also include health issues and the necessity for their adjustments. And also participants reported that when they are self-employed, their health difficulties were easier to handle and they have less stress and more flexibility. So another very interesting point that was stated by most of the entrepreneurs is their reason to start their business is to help those who have similar life difficulties. So that means they had a social mission. So one of the participants whom I interviewed had a tea and a cake shop. So she was very good at baking. And she has recruited 2 other people with disabilities. So her social mission was to create job opportunities for disabled people. And also there was another participant who was very, very skilled. And he had a social mission to build, clutches like walking aids to those who in need. And also there was another person whom I interviewed. He was also very skilled entrepreneur, and he mentioned he was a pottery maker, and he has also helped another 2 people with disabilities. So during our interview, and he told me that if our government can't provide proper support to us, then it is our responsibility to look after each other's back. And that was the main reason he has recruited other people with disabilities, because he knew how difficult it is to earn an income. However, becoming a social entrepreneur was not an easy task. And it was revealed in the study that people with disabilities were experiencing many barriers. And one of the major barriers raised during the interview was that financial institutions do not provide interest-free, flexible business loans to entrepreneurs with disabilities. And this is so true, because this is something which I experienced personally as well. And financial institutions, according to those whom I interviewed, mentioned that they prefer safe investments and considers us social entrepreneurs as incapable of paying their loans back. So thus they have limits the availability of interest-free flexible loans program. And so these people, basically, they were looking for alternative options, such as from private sectors. However, disabled entrepreneurs' ability to acquire financial support from the private sector is basically depend on their social networks and their contacts with the private sector, especially in countries like Sri Lanka. So majority mentioned that it was extremely difficult for them to acquire financial support, even from private sectors, because they did not have these relationships. So some also highlighted the social environmental issues, such as general public attitudes towards disability and perception was another added challenge. And also things like barriers like lack of training skills, environmental barriers such as lack of transportation issues, difficult to obtain raw materials. All these were challenges that they have experienced. In addition, attitudinal barriers of vocational rehabilitation professionals, also another barrier that many of the participants experience. And also they mentioned that they could not find suitable courses or trainings of their interest from the disability vocational training courses in order to improve their skills. So positive opinions were conveyed by relatives and friends toward their social entrepreneurship choice. So these optimistic views ultimately became the motivator and success for their social entrepreneurship journey. So their family members and friends demonstrate support through actual actions, as opposed to the verbal and emotional expressions. So some participants mentioned that financial assistance, financial help from family and friends had a very significant impact on their businesses. And also, and therefore interviews were able to develop their entrepreneurial concepts into practical entrepreneurial action with their help from family and friends. Unfortunately, this is not the option for everyone. So social entrepreneurship, finally, I would like to say that social enterprise play an important role in the social inclusion of people with disabilities as people who have experienced Hansen's disease, because from birth or from the day we acquired impairment or the disease, we were told about what we can't do without being given the option for what we can actually accomplish. So governments can actually set up social enterprises to fill the gap by giving work and training possibilities to people who have experienced Hansen's disease and people with disabilities. Because I believe if given opportunities or chances, we can contribute to our family, we can contribute to our community, and we can surely contribute to our society. And this will, society will be able to, we will be able to participate completely and equally in all domains and stages of life. And this will help to develop a new societal culture in which we are no longer considered as second-class citizens who require or need charity, but rather as equal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Subodha. And I would like to apologize to all of you, because I think we will not have time for the Q&A, for the live Q&A, but I see that the questions are being answered in the Q&A box. And I would like to go to Dr. Arie de Kruijff, who is the country leader of the Leprosy Mission in Mozambique, and he's also joining us via pre-recorded video since the internet connection is often unreliable. Please play the video.
Good morning or evening or afternoon. My name is Arie de Kruijff. I'm the country leader for Mozambique for the Leprosy Mission. So we as the Leprosy Mission are focused on working with people and communities affected by leprosy. In Cabo Delgado province of Mozambique, where I work, this would typically be rural communities where around 60% of the households live on less than $1.25 a day, and around 70% of them depend on agriculture for the majority of their livelihoods. About a third of the participants affected by leprosy that we work with in villages have visible deformities, which very often would affect multiple limbs, hands and feet, and that impedes their activities of daily life greatly. Men and women are affected roughly equally in this way. Social stigma and sometimes discrimination are often still associated with leprosy. As leprosy affects much more than just our physical health, we try and develop projects that would promote social integration of people affected by leprosy and help them have improved sustainable livelihoods. Good intentions, however, does not guarantee good outcomes, and over the years we have had many failures that should not now fail to teach us some good lessons. Some 12 years back, our approach was to try and develop some small entrepreneurial initiatives for and with people affected by leprosy. We had many initiatives like communal farmland for self-care groups, startup capital for small projects initiated by the group members, a fruit tree project and a goat farming initiative. Most of these initiatives failed within the first year as ownership was not well defined. Members did not have the needed entrepreneurial skills, or members with disabilities could not actively participate. Also, focusing on only involving people affected by leprosy, taking them out of their community context, did not help them integrate in their communities, and there was not sufficient knowledge and skills and networks in that limited group to sustain the initiatives. So, in learning from these failures, we initiated a new livelihoods and food security project in 2015, starting farmer, field and life groups, as well as village saving and loans associations. We adapted our participant selection process to include people affected and not affected by leprosy, and we let people with disabilities select a family member to participate on their behalf. It was a 3-year project where we had specific field staff present in the villages on a regular basis, so we had much better follow-up and accompaniment during the implementation. We had very focused outcomes we were working towards in the projects, like the adoption of specific agricultural techniques or the planting of specific varieties of produce. These outcomes were based on experience and a good scientific basis from experts in the agricultural field with local knowledge. They were, however, selected by us, still with very little input from our target group. Our end of project evaluation indicated that we have mostly achieved these outcomes, but it seems like the daily life had not changed much for people affected by leprosy specifically. Maybe we did not exactly get what they really needed. Narrow focus initiatives like focused agricultural groups or goat farming, etc., are effective in increasing production, but then the gains get undermined by changes in economic and demographic environments. Our members were producing more, but then the market for maize and beans, for instance, changed, and they were not as flexible to adapt. There were other factors influencing markets and available networks that we did not know about. Savings groups are very effective instruments to stimulate savings, and many of them continue for years after the project had stopped. But we saw that members or groups often had difficulty in investing that capital for a higher return, either due to fear, uncertainty, or because they were not able to identify opportunities for investment. So maybe there were wider social issues like stigma and self-stigma that created barriers for people affected by leprosy to fully take advantage of the opportunities. Initiatives often fail because essential wider knowledge was not available. For instance, where to get help, more knowledge on plant or animal diseases and possible local treatments, market trends, basic marketing skills or other alternatives that might have been available. We were adding new knowledge, but maybe it was not sufficiently contextualized or not dynamic enough to adapt to a fast-changing environment and market. we also saw that leadership is a strong enabler that can either multiply or divide our input and investment, for instance, in agricultural associations. So, in putting all this together, it led us to focus more on value chains and entrepreneurship, combining this with savings groups. In looking at value chains, we try and equip participants with a broader perspective and entrepreneurship skills, and allowing them to self-define their objectives where possible, whether that be agriculture or other types of small business. We also try to create a link to more networks, for instance, for commercializing agricultural products. During the participant selection process, we try and make a selection of people affected by leprosy or families representatives jointly with other members in the community they can associate with. We try to cultivate a longer-term whole village perspective by including other types of interventions and linking these to each other, for instance in leadership development, access to knowledge, advocacy, awareness, and involvement of a wider group of community leaders. In the area of knowledge, for example, we see that there are a lot of good local knowledge available, but there are also lots of external knowledge available that could be adapted and contextualized to be more useful. So we are seeking to promote ways to better capture, adapt, and share knowledge on village level. During the past 2 years have been a time to pilot some of these initiatives, and we hope to roll these out in more villages during the next coming 3 years. But the learning never stops, and I hope we can better find ways to have people affected by leprosy themselves lead the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arie. And thank you very much to all the speakers, to all the participants, and to all the ones that have been helping here behind the scenes. I would like to thank also, I think it's Miriam doing the live captions. And I do hope that this is another step in the ongoing conversation that we need to have, that needs to happen at this level, but also on the very local level, to make sure that there is real economic empowerment for persons affected by leprosy, persons with impairments, and all persons who are in some ways marginalized and do not have access to this economic empowerment. I wish all of you a good day, a good evening, a good afternoon, a good night, and thank you so much.